everybody. Welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. We're going to be talking about how you can ask your boss for a promotion. And we're going to be talking to Gonzague Dufour, who wrote this beautiful book, Managing Your Manager, in which he talks about 6 different boss types that we're going to talk about today. And then figure out how once you figure out your boss type, how you may ask for a raise or a promotion or whatever you may want to ask your boss for. So welcome, Gonzague.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit. So there are 6 different boss types. You've worked for each of these boss types. Tell us a little bit about your career and what led you to write the book first off.
Okay. As you will notice very, very quickly, I'm French, and I moved to New York 13 years ago. And I'm a lawyer by education, and I work in HR for 30 years. Philip Morris, Kraft, Bacardi. And finally, I decided to go for coaching and business coaching. And when I was with Philip Morris, one of my boss, I remember exactly when and where it was, on the terrace. He was heavy smoker, I was not. And he said, "Have you ever thought about leader-led?" I said, "No, that's very new." And that's the star who was telling me that. And I said, "Hey, maybe there is something there to dig in."
Yeah.
And being in a human resource at quite a high level, every year we had talent review, and I could assess, meet, develop a lot of these executives and directors and managers. And yes, I've worked with many, but after going through this exercise, I could see some trend and I could see some traits coming in and say, okay, maybe there is a story to tell, which is my story, and that's what the book is about. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, why don't we make it useful? And then maybe there are some traits which are common, but there are some which are very specific. And that's when I came with these 6 guys. And definitely the 6 of these guys, they have a name, but they are not them, because I've added some traits, I've added some stories which are not theirs. And I'm pretty sure one recognizes him, and he came back to him and said, "Are you sure that's me?" He said, No, it's not you. It's not you. And but his assistant came back to me and said, "Yes, that's him. I know that's him." I said, "Oh, no, because I don't want to." There are good things, and I would say things to be improved in any of this profile.
Right.
And that's the beginning of the story, and that's why. I know that's a bit challenging, because people are telling me, but you cannot manage a boss. That's not the way it works. But if let's take some numbers. 50% of the people who are leaving in a company, it's because of the boss. Mm-hmm. If you look at different surveys, between 13 and 30% of the people are motivated at work, which means 70% are not, right, apparently. And if it's not about the boss, I'm not sure you understand. Okay, that's about the culture of the organization a lot, but the boss is key. And the third one I was thinking about are the millennials. You know, these guys, they want, okay, it's a bit the flavor of the month, and it can be disputed. Is that really a category? Are we not creating artificially something? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think these guys, they are working for fulfillment, immediate answers, feedback, mm-hmm, which means at the end of the day, because the book has been published a few years ago, and things are moving very fast. Went back to the time I put on paper these stories. The millennials were not something we were speaking about. But if you think about it, these guys...
It's the millionaires, that's another category that's not in the...
Yeah, because...
Okay.
The millennials are these categories of kids who were born in the 90s and 2015, okay, which means I've never mentioned these guys, but actually the next book should be about we must educate the bosses to be managed, because these guys, that's what they will do. I can tell you, they are pushing, they are challenging, they are and giving a feedback, which means I see my daughter, she's 23, I can tell you, I'm not the boss, which
right.
means
You're talking about the millennials who it's that
Yes.
yes, the millennial boss and what they're going to be like. That will be fascinating. So, let's talk about the types of bosses that you've observed
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
your career.
Yeah.
So one is the bully, which I think that that's pretty self-evident. But give us a quick caricature of the bully.
I think that's the bully is, in a few words, and then I can show you the documents in more in detail, is somebody who is very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody with command and control,
Mm-hmm.
a big risk taker, and very tough to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that everything is really tough because he wants to get results. He
Mm-hmm.
is a bit selfish. He wants to get the bonuses, he wants to get the money, he wants to get and fast, which means no compromise with the people. And it's not an easy one because it's really pushing you hard, and it's very hard to connect with him. And as he's very ambitious and smart at the same time, because the six of these guys, the six guys, they are very smart. I can tell you, they are not one bad or one good. Each of them have something good, and they have been successful.
Right.
But the bully is by setting aggressive goals. He doesn't care about building a team. That's not the point. I need to have very good professionals with me, and then we will achieve the goals.
Right.
Are they getting along together? I don't.
Yeah,
That's
this
not
seems like almost like the old kind of authoritative model where the person's yelling at you to get stuff done. And, I
yeah.
actually had a client that had this kind of boss who literally would come in and you wouldn't know. He said, I'm not sure which person he would yell at, but he would go in. You never knew if it was going to be you that day, but you could have said something wrong, and that person would be like yelling and screaming at you and telling you to get out of the office, telling you how stupid you were. And this guy that I knew was, and in the chapters in this book, you talk about people who are well suited for the bully or not. This guy
Yeah.
was actually traumatized. Like he would go. It was almost like PTSD. He would go into the office and he couldn't even cope, and I literally had to work with him emotionally to settle everything down. And that's when he could finally go into the office and not be terrorized. And what he did was some of the things that you mentioned in the book. Like what he did was he didn't take things personally. He set boundaries with his exposure to this bully boss, and he started to see kind of. And I said, you know what? I think it would be interesting. And what I say to most people when they're having problems with their boss, I said, just look at them as if they're an animal in a zoo. Get super curious
Yeah.
about like when do they eat, when do they sleep, what makes them mad. And so he started doing that, and and which is one of the suggestions that you have in your book. But what do you think is really what's driving? Because you talk about them being intensely ambitious. Is it power and control that's driving? Like, is that the main thing that's driving their
Power.
behavior?
Mainly achievement, result, and money. These guys, they wanted to succeed at any cost, in quotes, because there are many controls in organization, but they are very risk takers, and they use the people to get the issues fixed. Yeah, is pushing very hard. It's tough.
Okay, so
And that's exactly what you said.
yeah,
If you want to survive, if you can survive, you have better to assess yourself, self-confidence, working with the others, understand what's going on, how to deal with these guys. And there is time to meet with them and work with them, and you have to come with things he never thought about. But that's very tough.
yeah,
But at the same time, you have the gain at the end of
yeah.
the day.
And what's interesting is that you say this person's weakness or the gaps, the areas where you can fill in, are that they like the hierarchical command and control. So they're very good in a lot of the organizational structures that are evolving in companies today, which require
Yeah.
you to listen to other people, to build relationship, to build consensus. So if you have a bully boss, if you can
Yep.
fulfill the weakness, that seemed to be the overall trend with every single one of these bosses, as identify the gap and fill the gap. And that's how one of the ways that you can actually really make yourself valuable to this person.
Very much.
And do you think the bully actually does value you when you do that, or they don't really know exactly what you're doing, but they're happy about it?
I'm not sure value would be the word, but respect maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he would say, okay, this guy can be useful in that given circumstances and business situations, provided, for example, this guy had very tough time dealing with unions
Right.
because he was not patient, he didn't see the added value, but it was given.
Right.
Then HR was dealing with unions, giving this bully information about what's going on and taking over the negotiations, relations with union.
Ah.
Very happy. And then in that context, you go to the guy and you can give him some tips, you can give him some guidance, not managing him, but you can influence the guy
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
see that.
broadening their perspective. But yeah, it's
It's possible if you can find the niche. Don't be a yes person. Stand up for yourself when it counts, and maintain your cool because if the bully can figure you out and figure out what triggers and knows that, then if he knows that he can control you, he
very,
will. Right. And now I'm going to be using he as I know that you have just as a simplifying. Of course, there are women and men. This could be he or she, but we're just using he to be simplifying things. So. So those are things. So now it's time to ask your bully boss for a raise. How
yeah.
would you go about asking your bully boss for a raise?
I think that's I would use human resources or peers.
Mm-hmm.
These guys will never give you a kind of appreciations and telling you deserve this.
Mm.
And I think that you have to work with human resources and give him measures. And you don't go to this guy and say, I deserve a promotion or I deserve an increase, because a promotion, he needs you. Then he will keep you as long as he needs you to fulfill or to achieve his objectives.
Right.
Which means don't ask for that. An increase, that's very, very hard to ask him straightforward. He would say, I don't need you, which means you have better to use some the peers, or you have to the peers giving feedback on what you have done. And maybe once in a while you have, I remember this guy, when I was promoted and taking over the HR job, reporting to him, he came to me and he said, how much did the headquarters did give you as an increase? More than I gave you? You see the approach. It was, which means, no, sir, you're in charge. You're in charge. And tell me, which
Wow.
means.
So what would you say to HR? What would you go to HR and say to them? And how would you use your peers in HR? I don't understand what you would specifically do.
I think that I would go and say, okay, I've delivered. And last year or last month I did something which was exceptional. And even the bully told the others that it was really nice and great. And I think that you, compared to my peers, compared to others, I think that's a deserving increase. And what do you think?
Ah, okay.
But it's not very, very easy. A bully is the most difficult.
That one seems like a hard one. Okay,
No,
how
no.
about the goods? The goods seem like this is someone who is someone who is kind of like a good person. You describe it as a solid citizen. They consistently deliver good results, stable, predictable, maybe slow to
Yeah,
change.
yeah.
Probably good to work with because they give you good work-life balance. Um, they are reasonable, predictable, logical. What are some other things that you found with working with the good?
If I may, you have business cycles, as you know, and sometimes you need a bully, sometimes you need to stabilize the business, sometimes you need a fighter, which means the good, when he's in the good place at the right time, that's fantastic, because he has to stabilize. He's not there to take over new businesses. He's not there to create new brands. But when the business requires a different profile, that's very tough. But when he's where he should be, when it should be, these guys is fantastic to work with. A bit boring sometimes, but it's organizing everything. Everything has to be straightforward, clear, and nice. He's smart, which means he knows he doesn't want to take big risks. He can take risks. But if you like an environment where the rules are clear, the business stability is the main objectives, you won't make big salary increase because the business won't go 20% increase. But I think that sometimes in your life, it's good to have period where you can recover from the bully.
talk. So this may be like in a mature business cycle, like
Very
P&G,
much.
something that's been
Very
around forever, a product
much.
line like Clorox bleach or whatever. That's not even one of them, but like some cereal that's been there forever, just work there.
Very
And
much.
having actually once I went on maternity leave, I came back. And I worked for a boss who was this good boss, and it was really great, because I could actually have predictable hours. I knew what to expect. I mean, it was really quite good. Okay, so
He's a fair guy, I would say, fair and honest and no tricks, which means don't play tricks with him because then
right,
he can be very, very bad. But if you play by the rules with these guys, that's really something you need to breathe them sometimes. That's good.
yeah, yeah. All right, so yeah, you said liars will be cut out. Don't pander. Be your authentic self. Hidden agendas or pet peeves. So this is a person who just wants to know what's going on. Risk is actually the operative word. They're trying to minimize risk, and they don't like lots of explosive,
No,
emotional. None of
exactly.
those kind of things, right? Because if you're kind of a stable, calm guy, but yet at the same time, when it gets crazy like that, they're pretty calm.
Yeah,
Is that
and
right?
I remember one example was one of his report working he was working for Middle East Africa. He was in charge, the guy reporting to the good. And he came with a kind of a crazy business plan to take over some business in a country I cannot name actually. It was some risk, but
Yeah.
the wins were unbelievable. But
Right.
he went to the guy, said, and the good said, was not in the plan for this year. I don't think that we should take the risk, come back next year, and include that in the budget and
Yeah.
in the next cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the good. That's the good.
Even if the next cycle, the whole business opportunity was gone, it doesn't matter. Just
Yeah,
follow that
that's
process.
not it. And,
Okay.
and back to merit increase with this guy. Don't expect any increase or promotion during the year. There are processes. We'll
Oh,
see in December what's going on. We'll see when we review and make your assessment, performance. There are processes. And
right.
yes, I'm ready to give you an increase, but not now.
Oh, they're going to be awful with millennials. That's an awful thing with
Very
millennials.
much so.
No, but
Very
actually, the
much.
things that millennials seem to like is they like the structure and stability, and they want to know what to expect, and they want reasonable work hours. So that this kind of boss would be good.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I will give you an example of a millennial who I met 2 days ago, and she has been in the same job for 7 weeks. And she said, "That's boring. I want to change. I want to move. I want an increase." Okay, don't speak to the good. Don't
You
speak to.
don't talk about the good. All right, um, so if you were to ask this boss, so first of all, do it within the cycle. There's a cycle for promotion, and I assume there's a process for promotion. So if you wanted
Yes,
to work with this person,
yes,
you would figure out what the cycle and process would be, or
very
what would
much.
you do? Or would you have to talk to him at the beginning of the fiscal year to know what the end of the fiscal year would look like? Is that
Yeah,
really what you do?
exactly. Exactly. You set up objectives at the beginning of the year. You go back to the guy, you say, is it clear for you? And are these objectives clearly measurable and you agree with them? Yes. Then I'll see you at the end of the year.
Right.
If during the year there are some changes to make you the objective, go to the guy and don't wait until December to tell him, oh,
Mm,
yeah, but by the way, in June we had a
right.
different approach. Then keep these guys involved and have clear objectives, and then you will be rewarded, but at the end of the cycle,
Right,
not
and
in
you
the
have to just
middle.
keep on going. I've hit my objectives. If you're saying I hit my objectives, then I'm going to be up for the promotion. And this person is honest and reliable enough that if they said yes and you did deliver, then they will give you a raise
Very
or
much,
promotion. Okay.
very much.
Okay, that seems fair. All right, the the kaleidoscope.
The kaleidoscope. I like the kaleidoscope.
Actually, of the ones, the kaleidoscope may be my worst nightmare.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no. I like the tool, not the guy. Because for me, the kaleidoscope, that's these small colored stones
Yeah.
moving and making different designs. And what I'm saying is always the same, never the same. And this guy is always the same, never the same. He's unpredictable. He's so smart. If he was a game, it would be a chess game.
Mm,
But as a master at very high level, and he can see you coming 6 or 7 we say coup in French, ahead of you, which means
Right,
it's
six or
very
seven
hard to
steps
play with.
before, moves before
Steps,
of you.
steps,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So they know, they see you coming, and their primary goal is to accumulate, solidify, and freely demonstrate positional
Yeah,
powers or operative thing. That's what they're
yes,
trying
yeah,
to gain. And
yeah.
so, what's interesting is, unlike like you're saying, that their persona is going to adapt. So they're kind of chameleon like, and I may be, when I'm with someone, I may be tough. I may be really gentle, and you may think you probably all think I love you, but I really am using you to get at my own means.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what.
exactly.
Is that right?
I've been drinking beers. I've been watching soccer matches. I've been slam on the hands and not awarded the way I wanted by these guys at this profile, which means be ready because
Yeah,
you
you
never
don't.
know what's coming. You never know what's coming.
See, I think that this would be really hard because you don't know, like you said, you're not going to know when they're coming, what their objectives are. They're unpredictable. All you
Yeah.
can know is that and you're not even going to know who they truly are because they're a chameleon, so they will change your shape and color and whatever to the people. So it seems like they would be very hard to work for. The only thing it seems that you could do is know that they're unpredictable and then don't trust them and don't
I
trust
think
what they
that's
say. Sounds
no,
awful.
no, that's true. As long as you assume and you know that his target and objective is to get the top job, top, and there are many tops, but the top jobs, you may be able to decode a little bit what's going on, but help him to go higher, but never try to block this guy. He's very dangerous because I've seen him being extremely well connected with one of his direct report,
Mm-hmm.
and one day he was really promoted to a very big job. And the guy he was very well connected to believed that he would get the previous job of the boss. He would be promoted, and he never got it. Never got it.
Mm.
And the only game and name of the game for the kaleidoscope was to get information and to be informed and to know what was going on and intricacies and policies and politics and so on. That was it. And the guy was never
Oh, right. So,
thanked
so,
for.
so, so the so even the kaleidoscope, because the kaleidoscope, and as I recall the story in your book, Managing Your Manager, you talked about that this person was really helping him during a critical time at work, and so this boss, this kaleidoscope, really needed to have this person there
Very much, very
working.
much.
And so when the person said, "I want a promotion," you're like, "Absolutely. When I leave, you'll take this job." And so he kept on. I don't know if it was a he or she, but he kept on saying to the person, "Yes, you're going to get this job. You're going to get this job." And then, in the end, the person did not get this job because,
No,
like you said, this person has a hidden agenda. They will say what they
yeah,
need to say to give them power and to get the
very
work out
much.
of you. So how do
I'm
you
back
work
to
with someone like
sorry,
how
yeah,
do you work
sorry.
with someone like this?
Yeah, I'm back to the chess game, and to kill the king, he's ready to sacrifice the tower or the fool. He has no problem. He has no
Mm-hmm.
problem. He will do it. How do you work with these guys? Getting as close as you can, using your sense of humor because he likes it. And humor for me is two dimensions. What's real in the joke you're making, in the humor you're bringing to the table. What's true? What's really a joke? And then you play on this, and then he can come and play with you. And that's the way to try to guess what's the agenda. And
Right.
sometimes he comes to you because he needs you and he remembers.
Mm. Mm.
But that's very
Oh.
and the merit increase, salary review with these guys, a promotion is. I think that's watch the timing. Sometimes you watch a soccer match with the guy and say that's the time to ask him for something. Don't do that. Don't do that because he has created a kind of a bubble where he's friendly and so on. But
Mm.
that means the rules is let's be friendly and don't speak about business anymore.
Interesting. So even if he did say that at the soccer match, don't believe it because this is the time to be friendly, and I just really don't. So how would you approach someone like this that wants? So that even if they're going to tell you something that is not true, um, so what do you start doing? Just documenting your conversations? Like, what do you do with someone like
Oh,
this?
I I think I enjoyed the job because he was very smart and he developed a lot the business, and which means for me as an HR was a lot of opportunities to deal with Russia and all these countries. I was VP HR for Eastern Europe at the time. Then I've been helping him to develop, and then I was following this guy like a small fish behind a big one.
Right.
And I enjoyed it because I learned a lot. But the price to pay was, okay, what's next for me? I don't know. But finally, let's enjoy what you have, and maybe sometimes the opportunity will come.
So basically, the only way to get promoted maybe is to jump out of the pond, go someplace else, look elsewhere. And if you go out, or is this person going to be vengeful towards you? Or just like, hey, that person wanted more power. They did what they had to do. I respect that. Like, or what direction would they take?
If he doesn't need you anymore, he's ready to let you go. But if he needs you, he will block everything. He will block everything.
I've had that happen at work where they block. There's a power mover. Like, I know you want to go. So you'd have to even leave the company in order to get a promotion, probably.
Or you may be ready to go for another cycle and say, okay, that's what I'm learning, that's what I'm benefiting from, and that's it, and go for it. And network would be key. And I used to work a lot with my peers to understand what was going on, and even with this assistant to know what's the mood he was in, which means decode the environments and the mood he's in. That's another game.
Yeah. Okay, how about the star? I think that's most of the people I've ever worked for are stars. I luckily have not worked for a bully, and I've worked for the good. But what's a star?
The star is shining, and the star is falling. Agree. Guy is in the business cycle. That's somebody you need when you're taking over, when you're developing new businesses, when you have to take some risks, and even risk you cannot acknowledge sometimes, which means that's what the star is for, which means if the star is smart enough and he's with you, and I had a lot of very nice leader-led was coming from him, and if he's very good and you can connect with the guy, I think that you can help him to prepare for the next step. And that was my trick at that time, and giving him some feedback because, okay, you take over this business, but be careful because this guy is not on board with you. What should you do? Is probably adjust your leadership style, and in addition, that will give you more visibility and you will shine a bit more, even more.
So if you map this back to what you're saying, and if you take Michael Porter has that matrix, right, between risk and risk and growth. Is that the one where there are stars, dogs, cash cows, and dogs? Did I mention that? Yeah. Anyway, so this is people who are in the stars, where it's high growth, high risk, versus the cash cow, which is someone who the manager you refer to as the good, right? Would be in that right low risk. Still pretty good return, but not a huge amount of growth, but also not a huge amount of risk. So this is the high risk, high return kind of person.
Yeah, because as you're saying, if you have a cash cow, you don't put this crazy star there because he wants to shy. He doesn't want to bring you the profit increased by 5% every year. He wants 20%. And he's a fantastic guy, fantastic leader.
Right.
Then you kill your cow.
Right. Well, it's funny because when I take my career. When I worked for Clorox, which is a very stable, been around for forever, my bosses were the good. There's the guy who'd been there forever, and then when I worked at Microsoft, my boss was. I've seen kaleidoscopes. Luckily, I haven't had any bosses that are kaleidoscopes, where people were just, getting promotions after promotions because they managed their manager by making them look good because they knew that was how they were going to accumulate more power, right? And the star was mostly what people at Microsoft were, right? Because they were starting new businesses. And over time, a lot of those people, those stars left because that's not what you need in those kind of businesses, right?
Very much. And just, if I may, a comment. Some people reading the book told me, yes, but you cannot categorize these people in 6 different types with different traits. I agree. It's about preferences. I think this guy preferred to work and lead that way. It doesn't mean that they can't or they are not using some traits or capabilities others have. But in terms of preferences and preferred style, that's who they are. And don't tell me that it's totally wrong. No, it's not totally wrong. First, it's based on experience and pragmatic approach and not a new theory about leadership. But yes, the scientist or the good can be sometimes tough. It can be bullying you, but he prefer to come back to the good style. And that's what I'm saying, preference.
Yeah. No, a lot of the people, there were very few people at Microsoft who were stars that stayed all the way to the good phase because they literally couldn't take it. They preferred not to be in that place because that wasn't true to their authentic nature. But so the stars, they shake things up. They have a ton of energy and stamina. They challenge the status quo. They may blame others when things go wrong, but they may be dramatic. So you're saying they're kind of drama queens, is that right?
Yeah, very much, very much. Overreacting, testing you. He was testing the people, taking them late at night because he knew that you couldn't survive.
Yeah, I mean, they're impatient. They hate bureaucracy. This was literally almost every boss that I ever had at Microsoft. Steve Ballmer, being the former CEO, was just this. He used to come at annual meetings and be like, "All right, people," and he'd just like yell and scream, and it was like, oh my gosh, like he was really emotional kind of guy.
Very much, very much. Yeah, drama queen. That's I think that's you got it.
Very much. That kind of energy. All right, so what you say with the stars: enjoy the ride, try to steer rather than control, because you're not going to control this person, so don't even try.
But being a member of the team's star, that's sometimes very good because you are small star maybe, but you are part of the game and appreciated as such by the organization. Oh, you work with the star, fantastic, and you survived and you delivered, fantastic. That's another stripe you're gaining, working with the star and surviving and delivering.
So I think that's true, that they're going to be going, you're going to be going, you're in, you have a halo status around you. So when I was at Microsoft, I worked for Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Office, and those were like the gems along with Windows, and those people had kind of a status that was different than people in other parts of the company. So you got the halo, whether you were good or not. In that group, you got the halo status.
Exactly. But if you are good, that helps too.
Yeah, it helps if you're good. All right, so they had communicate quickly. That was definitely true. Perform postmortems, which we did a ton. Like, what went wrong? What could we do differently? It's constantly about iterating, better. Responding quickly. Don't betray their trust. So if they gave you like this cush trip or assignment, or you decided to go to a family function versus a company party, that may not be so great for this kind of boss, right? Why would that be such a problem?
Because a star has his way, and if you are going against him, he's afraid that either he could shine a bit less, or he could be hurt by your approach, which means you're with me and we are riding together. If not, leave it.
Okay. You're either on the mission or you're
he is very smart, and even when I was presenting a leadership program, he was in the room, and I said, "Are you listening?" He said, "Sure I am, and I will come back to you at the end." Okay, thank you very much.
We used to have this phrase when we were trying to get everyone involved on a certain project. We'd say you're either on the bus or you're off the bus. But if you're off the bus, get off the bus or I'm going to run you over. That was kind of, it was actually stuff that people would say.
And be careful, because you have better to get off the bus when there is a stop, because you may be kicked out.
Yes, this is true. They used to have a thing in HR where they would talk about the boat. they'd have a boat and like which people you're going to throw off the boat. Like when when you're trying to survive, which people you're going to
Exactly.
keep on the boat. This is the kind of people that you
Yeah,
have in startups. I think a lot of people in startups, entrepreneurs, they kind of fit
very
this.
much, very
Um,
much.
so how do you ask the star for a promotion or a raise?
I think that's a long discussion, conversation with him, and you're getting along. We have to get along with all of them, but especially with him, and you have to have conversation about career development, being not about yourself exclusively, but how he sees his future, or he sees or your future, and it takes time. And then don't be impatient. Be patient with this guy, but you should speak with him all along about that opportunity which comes, a drink, a meeting at the end. How would that impact my career? What you would like recommend me to learn if you think I have some potential, which means that's the way I would do it. And sometimes you can say, yes, it was so hard. I deserve really an increase, a merit increase.
Mm-hmm.
And he may accept, he may agree. And if he agrees, he will fight for you and you'll get it.
Okay, good. So far I'm hearing the star and the good.
Yeah,
Those are the
yeah,
best so far for promotions. Okay, how about the scientist? Um,
yeah.
yeah, how about this type?
He's my preferred one.
Yeah, that's your
Back to
favorite?
my experience, yes, my favorite. Yeah, because I like personally quite intuitive and creative, and I love these guys because he was ready to go for new experiences, even if he had in mind. For example, he came. He said. A team survives to his boss, and a good boss is somebody who builds a team, and when he goes, the team stays together. I say, yeah, that's a
Mm,
bit of a theory, my friend, and you have better to test it. And he said, yeah, let's test it. And then he were giving power to the team, and he could see that it was not that easy to do, but he was ready to go. And in terms of promotion, he was ready to take some risk and to learn from others and compare to other companies, which means that was really a nice time for me, HR.
yeah, so the way you describe him in your book is that this is someone who's like when I read it, it almost felt like my dad. My dad was this type. He worked as an engineer in a chemical pharmaceutical company, and he would have been this kind of person. He likes the theory, the knowledge. Um, there's a very rational, logical way. There's always a why with why they do something. It's not just
Yeah.
I don't know, it's my intuition or that's what my gut says. It's like, no, there's actually a why. Here's a rational reason why I'm doing things. Um,
Yeah, in MBTI, he was really an S&T, a thinker and sensor. He was not definitely intuitive and feeler. No,
oh,
well, it was
yes,
hard for me. That's
yeah.
okay. But it was, no, it was. I think that's no. It was not easy, but fun to have because he was giving you straight feedback, and I got some feedback coming from him, and I took it personally, which was wrong. He just wanted to help me to grow, and
Mm,
finally, that's the guy who helped me to get a big job in the corporations
mm,
and being, uh, I would say, not selfish because he would
mm.
have probably loved to keep me and helping him, but he said, no, you can. And the logic was talent review, succession planning. You are in, you go.
Yeah, wow, that's actually pretty impressive. Because
Yeah.
so this is someone who um, likes to give and receive feedback. So this
Yes.
is part of their
Yeah.
whole right. So they're going to really want to talk to you, be supportive. Like you said, they offer
Yeah.
advice, they're supportive. They like to teach. They like to teach and argue. They like to view everyone as equals. This
Yeah.
boss sounds pretty nice. This literally would be my dad
It's
managing
the
people.
it's the closest to the seventh leader, as I call
You
him.
think?
Yeah, chapter
Yeah, the
chapter
seventh
nine.
leader is kind of like your idealized. If you could
Yeah, my
reach, you
dream.
think this
Yeah,
the
yeah.
scientist is closest.
It was very close. Yeah, very close.
Okay, so this was interesting to me. You said that they could be moody sometimes if things were going bad.
Yeah.
Is that because things weren't hitting their theoretical model, so that they're getting upset, or because why did that happen?
I think that's for me personally. I think that's behind the process, timing, setting, objectives, and so on. There was a guy with some emotion and a bit sensitive and sensible, which
Mm.
means when something was hurting him, and showing that he was not totally right, he took it a bit personally, and that's why.
Okay.
He didn't get the promotion he was probably deserving because he was a damn good leader. And then he decided to leave, and he left the company, created something different at the site.
So you said that when working with someone who is close to your idealized boss, he was certainly my idealized dad. So you help them fill in their gaps because they may be a little bit disorganized. So helping them with policies and processes which may not be their strength, and taking their ideas that are very conceptual and translating them to the broader public would be things that would help. And then be around to bounce ideas off of, because I love kind of riffing off of ideas and bringing them forward. And that you may actually have to ask for more precise direction, clarity, and that's okay. Yeah. I love we're going to ship sometime in January. Well, what day in January are you planning for us to have this thing ready? Okay, so how would you work with this type of boss for asking for a promotion?
I think that's, again, you have two ways to do it. The first one is, as we said, you have this conversation, and then sometimes where you're taking risk and he has agreed that you have taken a big risk, and he's ready to reward you, but he prefers to do that in the context of the policies, processes, and so on. And I remember I got a big award from him, but because there was the talent review, salary review, and awards you could get any times in the year, and that he liked. Thank you, you did a good job. I want to give you a special award today. But I would like to have a merit review, a salary increase, not now. That's at the end of the year. But you see, it's flexible, but still square.
Yeah, just like the good. Like there's a process, there's a theory, you got to stay within the lines. It's you're mapping these to the Myers-Briggs. So interestingly, you said this person is an S, sensing, and T, thinking. So they're very literal, linear, stay in the box. Is that the same with the good, or they usually find them in the Myers-Briggs as the sensing?
I think I would try to put them in this MBTI, and I think that most of them are S and T, maybe not the navel, but S and T, and the difference is either intro or extro or judging and the end, which means that's the biggest difference with most of these leaders. They are S and Ts. Huh?
Yeah. Well, when they say in Myers-Briggs, I was surprised when I looked at the data. I think like 70% of the people are S's in general. I think that was the right number. And the T's and F's, I think most people in business that are men generally are T's. I think but T's and F's were interesting because it was a 50-50 split. But I would imagine that if there was anyone to be an N, it would be an intuitive, it would be the star. That would be my guess, right? And they're probably more P than J. I don't know.
Yes, definitely. But I think again, we are speaking about preferences, but the kaleidoscope can play with this.
Yeah, they're probably in the middle line of everything.
Yes, and they're playing with you. They are great actors.
Because I've had people who've literally took the Myers-Briggs and they have 4 points on the line. I always find that fascinating. Okay, we only have 3 minutes left. I've been given a warning. All right, the navel. Tell us a little bit about the navel. This was also awful to me. This boss I just thought awful. Okay, terrible. You said egotism is their dominant trait. It's all about. They sound like a narcissist. It's all about them and what they're going to get out of their needs, and they may conjure up a credible argument out of thin air, which I read as they may lie. They don't admit when they're wrong.
They're professional liars.
Okay, that's bad. They have an instinct for self-preservation. They won't accept responsibility, and they use their force of personality to persuade people what they want. Okay, so for this kind of person, which sounds awful to me, like this person sounds like why are they in a position of power? But they get there through their salesmanship, right?
You'll never get anything if there is nothing in it for him.
Yeah, so you're not going to get a raise or promotion.
You can change the salary structure if there is anything for him. And if you are not a good professional, you change it and telling him that will help you to get something. And then personally, you'll get something too, which means that's very hard to have. That's what I'm saying. Better to challenge check your values working in this environment, because you may be very well tempted to play by the same rules as the guy plays. And I think that sometimes you have to stand up and to say, no, I disagree, but it's very tough because he's smart too and has developed business too, which means you're exposed to a guy who say, who are you? Who are you to teach me how to behave and not to do? Which means that's tough because when the others, except maybe the bully, your values were not that much challenged, you know, and at stake. With this naval, it was, yes, very more than close. Sometimes we said, okay, what should I do? What should I do? And you have to be very careful because you never know who will tell him what because that's the name of the game with this guy, which means that's not very healthy environment, I would say.
Yeah. So if you wanted to get a raise, it sounds like, how would you even pursue it? Because they're going to lie, much like the kaleidoscope. They'll tell you what you want to hear just to keep you there. But then they'll probably go, well, this person could be gone any moment, so now they're demerited in my mind. I mean, how would you work with them, or or just don't even expect a raise or promotion with this kind of person?
No, you will get, and I think that's very hard for me to give a tip here, because I think that's in a nutshell, I would say, if you can play with your values, you can get anything you want with these guys.
Okay, got it. Yeah. You have to, I see, got it. Okay, got it. So you have to sacrifice your own integrity in order to play within their rules, and their rules are very dubious at best. Okay, that sounds awful. Okay. All right, we've been talking to Gonzague Dufour, and we've been talking about his book, Managing Your Manager. And I've just touched upon very lightly, but this book has all these descriptions, all these wonderful stories. And in the back, it gives you various situations. We just talked about promotion, but what do you do when you have conflict? What do you do when there's transition? All the main things that happen in a business and how you would work with the particular boss that you had. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.